Hey everybody, we're the 1951 Coffee team. We've been working very closely with a local nonprofit named 1951 Coffee, and they're based in Berkeley. They're literally a couple of blocks away from us, and we've been very fortunate to be able to work with a nonprofit that close to where we study. Today we have Annie, our designer, Miles, Karina, Sydney, and Jen to go over the project that we've been developing for this past semester. And this project would not have been possible if it wasn't for Alice Zhao, our previous project lead last semester, as well as Noah working on the product from a technical standpoint last semester as well. To highlight what we'll go over today, let's first get a better understanding of 1951 Coffee, a better grasp of the type of vision and the type of mission that they have. From there, we'll talk about some of the problems that they've been facing, some of the pain points that we want to solve for them. Afterwards, we've had Annie dive in a little bit deeper, understanding the problem, conceptualizing it, and thinking of ways to tackle and solve the problems that they were facing. From there, we'll go over the solutions from a technical standpoint. Afterwards, we'll do a walkthrough of the mobile app that we've developed. And then we'll chat a little bit about the technical milestones and some of the challenges that we've had to decide on based on the pros and cons. From there, we can chat about the NPO handoff experience, what that was like in preparing for launch and after launch. And then finally, we'll conclude with the memories that we've all shared as a team and the progress that we've made this semester.
The nonprofit that we're working with is 1951 Coffee, which is an organization that trains and employs recently resettled refugees and asylees in the Bay Area. Oftentimes, upon initial immigration, refugees are not given the proper support to attain living wage jobs because of the challenges of language barriers and lack of resources. To address this, the founders of 1951 Coffee not only opened up their own cafe, where they could directly provide jobs to refugees in need, but also started a barista training program, where they train and prepare over 100 refugees per year for entrance into the coffee industry, where they are able to maintain successful jobs. The problem is, this organization did not have a proper organization or communication platform to efficiently run these programs. Anytime there was an upcoming event or important message that needed to be relayed to the students, the program admins had to manually type in the phone number of each individual trainee and copy-paste the same text message to each participant in their program. The same tedious process occurred when the recruitment specialist needed to reach out to graduates about job opportunities, where appropriate candidates had to be handpicked based on their proximity to the job location and with their text message history acting as the only record of job applicants. To address these problems, our team created a platform that provides access to community messaging, job opportunities, class events, and additional resources.
This semester, in terms of design, I primarily focused on building out the rest of the screens that I didn't get to last semester, and also tackling different user experience issues that we discovered along the way. Probably one of the biggest changes I made this semester was to the color scheme of our different screens. Near the end of last semester, I had introduced this darker color palette in the hopes that it would provide better contrast and also help users better differentiate between the different screens and features. However, I realized that this use of color could be overwhelming, and early on this semester I actually reverted back to a lighter color scheme. So these lighter colors are enhanced with the darker colors I had previously used. So this kind of accentuates different call to actions and highlights better. But yeah, this is probably the biggest change made in terms of design this semester. Last semester, we primarily focused on building out the messaging and communication portions of the app. And then this semester, we redirected a lot of that focus into building out the resources screen. I think the resources screen is arguably just as important as all the communication features, just because the training program itself is only 2 weeks long. It is quite short, so it's really important that students have easy access to these resources, even like weeks and months and years after they graduate, to make sure that they can be successful in their future barista roles. And that, once again, is a big goal of the NPO. So when designing these screens, we put a lot of consideration to making sure that all the various like embedded PDFs or video links were easy to access on both like iPhones and Android phones. And then finally, a lot of the things we discovered during user testing was just that there was not enough context provided for a lot of the information. Once again, a lot of information isn't that useful unless there's proper context provided. And so the first thing we realized is that a lot of the address links in our maps aren't that useful because in our app aren't that useful because they don't really provide these users much context into where this location is, like relative to them, just because they're pretty new to this area, so they probably don't really have a good sense of what these addresses mean. So having that map like redirect feature is really crucial, and we did add that in this semester. And then another thing we realized during testing was that when students were responding to a certain message that admin had put out, we had this pre-fill text which would help give the admins more context into who is sending them the message. But a lot of the students got confused about this and they started deleting this text. To kind of make this text placement look more intentional, we start adding more spacing in between like the text that we provide and where the student would start typing themselves. So hopefully this kind of alleviates some of that confusion.
Okay, so next I will be walking through the screens within the app. So basically, let's say I was a user who downloaded this app, but I'm not in a 1951 class, so I don't have an account. Then I would simply click continue as guest, and each screen will be blocked to me except for the classes in case I want to see any classes that I would be able to attend. Now let's say that I did have an account. I could simply log in with my given username and password. And once I log in, I'll be able to see the messages. And basically, this screen allows me to see all the messages that the 1951 staff sends to me, and each one has different information. This one has an event information with date and location. If I want to see where this location was, I can simply click on it, and it would open Google Maps to see where I am relative to where this event is held. Also, if I wanted to reply back to the sender of this message, I could simply click Message Cynthia, and I would be able to text her any concerns or follow-ups that I had. Next is the job tab. The jobs tab allows me to see any job listings that the 1951 staff post. If I was interested in one, I would be able to click read more, see more information about it. And if I'm interested, I can click I'm interested. This will notify the employment specialist that I was interested in the job, and they will contact me later about any additional information. As you can see, once I click I'm interested, the job card turns gray to notify me that I have marked that I was interested in this job. Next, we have the classes. This basically gives me information about all the classes to be held, as well as graduation. Along with this, any events that could be important to what I should be attending. Lastly, we have the resources card screen, and this allows me to see different types of resources. There's brew guide, interview guide, worksheets, tutorials. See if I click on each one, it takes me to that given worksheet. There's interview guide, and I can look at them if I ever needed any more information about things. For worksheets, since there's multiple, I see there are multiple, I can click on here. And if I were to fill out this worksheet and I want to know what the answers are, I could simply click answers, and this allows me to see the answers to this given worksheet. And then lastly, we have tutorials, which is pretty similar to worksheets. There's different ones I can choose from, and if I click one, it will open it in YouTube and I'll be able to view it. Nice. Lastly, I also see this message button on top, and if I click that, it basically gives me the numbers for all the point of contacts for 1951 staff. And that's basically the app.
One technical challenge that we faced was figuring out what was the best way to check for new messages. And the reason why this was a big problem was the way push notifications were sent. We needed to check our Airtable to determine what messages were new and whether these messages needed to be sent as push notifications to our users. And we actually first implemented Integromat. And the great thing about Integromat is the fact that it is a no-code solution. Everything is managed via the UI. But their free plan basically meant that we could only check for messages once an hour. And that kind of counteracts the idea of having push notifications because you want push notifications to be quick, to be immediate to the phone. Which is why, even though in the previous semester we already built in an Integromat, we finally decided to move off of it and move towards a coded solution which used JS, which is then hosted on Heroku, to manage this checking of messages. I think what we've learned from this part of the project was even if we've tried something, even if it works, it doesn't necessarily mean it is the best tool for our use case. And we ultimately had to pivot as a result of that.
Yep. So next thing we're going to be talking about in terms of technical milestones is using Airtable. And so what differs from this project in relationship to previous projects is that we're using Airtable as a supplier for our backend instead of a Rails server. And so what this does is that allows us to use Airtable's interface to manage records visually through either forms or direct editing through cells, similar to how Google Sheets operate. So this is really important because our main users are administrators who have little to no technical experience. So having something like Airtable, which already has similar learning curves to any spreadsheet software, is a real advantage to, one, not only speeding up our development, meaning that we don't have to create an entirely new dashboard for our backend, and two, creating a better user experience that is already solidified and well tested inside the tech community. So there are still challenges around building with Airtable. So Airtable operates through an API. We call and make requests through that API, and we update our components accordingly. And so challenges include managing our Airtable schema. So that includes what tables we have operating, their current column names and their value types, setting default values for empty cells, undefined parameters, and otherwise missing pieces of information, and handling those cases in our components. And lastly, any sort of debugging, whether it comes through errors, through unrejected or unhandled promises through our API calls, or user errors where things are otherwise missing inside our record format.
Having the initial launch of the app, we could onboard the students, help them to navigate different screens, and better understand the interaction of the trainees with the interface. And based on that, it helped our team to make some of the changes for the app. So one of the examples is that we observed that many students were deleting the message header that included their names and class, which was crucial for the administrators to know when they get the messages. It led us to embed new lines for the message replies, so the students won't tend to delete the message header. One of the essential things during the nonprofit handoff experience is documentation. Knowing that 1951 team doesn't have developers, we had to customize our documentation with as much simplicity as possible. And not only we included how to navigate the database, but also we considered the fact of the contingency plan for the Airtable free plan limitations. We also created the documentation for end users and for developers for the future. Having a transparent and consistent communication with an NPO is crucial, and it led us to a successful mobile app. We had an impact on furthering the 1951 community, and we hope that this application will have a long run success in the future.
All this work that we've accomplished definitely would not have been possible if it wasn't for the team we've had. I still remember very fondly of the beginning of the semester. This is actually a day after Karina joined 1951 from the previous team she was on, and when Sydney joined as a new member within Blueprint. Literally a day after, we told them, hey, the launch is tomorrow, you need to be there. And we did a teach-in with the mobile app that we were developing since last semester, and we had a really successful run. And afterwards, we went for lunch, and this is the picture you see on the top left of us enjoying our pho. And throughout the semester, we were able to share many more memories together. From being able to spend time together in person to slowly adapting to this remote lifestyle that we had, such as playing games on Avalon, enjoying Zoom calls together, playing code names online, and trying to mash up a face together with another team. I think these were all incredible memories that we're able to share, and I definitely will not forget um, all the incredible work that we've done and all the times we've spent together. So I would like to say thank you to you all. Thank you to 1951 Coffee for being able to partner with us. Thank you to Alice Zhao for being an incredible leader the previous semester, putting the project in such an excellent place where I was able to continue with the team to build out the rest of the product.